Welcome back. All right, in the previous lesson we did a DHCP server lab, right? We were all in part of the same broadcast domain. It's important to know because why? Look what we got here. I don't think you can see that because it's like on right behind me. And I believe I have this lab. When I created this lab, I created it somewhere. I don't remember where or when I did it. But this was really, it was a question based on how DHCP worked. This is an actual, well, not actual, but this is a DHCP server right here. All right, and you can do this in your packet tracer, very, very simple. All right, let's maximize this so you can really see it. And you go to config tab and you go to DHCP and you can create your pools. You can create actual pool addresses, right? And you see my pool names are VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And you have the default gateway based on the subnet that they're in. Everybody has the same DNS server address. The start IP address will be different based on the subnet you're in. And obviously the subnet mask is a 224 because we're using a 32 increment. Okay. And I have a TFTP server address there. Why? Whatever. I don't know why I did that, but I did. Okay. But the thing that you need to understand here is what a relay agent is. In a Microsoft environment, you will actually have to go into routing remote access and install that protocol, DHCP relay agent, and then configure it to look for, give it the IP address of the DHCP server. So it can intercept a node, it can go on your behalf to assign an IP address. And why is that? If you take a look at this configuration, you figure, hey, isn't everybody on the same network? No, they're not. Because here, this is VLAN 2, right? We have a TFTP server and a DHCP server, obviously statically assigned. All right, and these switches here are all different VLANs. We got VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, which means they're in a different broadcast domain. So DHCP server, or routers for that matter, do not accept by default broadcast addresses. So if it sees a broadcast address coming at it, it will just dump it. It won't accept it. So if you have a DHCP server on another broadcast domain and trying to assign IP addresses within another broadcast domain, it will fail. It will actually fail. Now, I'll show you when we configure the router like we normally would for inter-VLAN connectivity. But these computers, all right, they're DHCP enabled, and you see, well, let's do static. This like, okay, it failed. Because normally I just go static DHCP. It's like an IP config release and then renew. I just go back and forth, okay? But the finger aiming is off today. It's been off for quite a bit. All right, anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to configure a DHCP relay agent, but the way we're going to do it is within the router. And in the router is called an IP helper address. IP helper address. Do you use this in the real world? Most definitely. Most definitely you will be using IP helper addresses, especially if you work for very large organizations. They do use this particular service, okay? Instead of actually deploying other servers or what have you. So we will go ahead and do the IP helper address. Now, in each switch already, the VLANs are already created, and I'll show you so you can see, okay? And actually, just stop using my finger and just use the mouse. Now the mouse is going crazy. That way. Okay. You can see it's already named and everything. Then you just do show VLAN. And then scroll up. And you can see that VLAN 10 is CLS 10 and it's assigned to those ports. So all switches already have their VLANs assigned. Also, show int trunk. All right. Port 24 is being dynamically trunked, which means, you see it says there, automatic mode N 8021Q, right? So all these VLANs are already set up that way, or the VLANs have been created. You've assigned the VLAN to a port, and then the ports are trunked. And really what we did on this core switch, all right, and again, let me take it that way, right there. And let me go ahead and open it up. Let's stick it to the top. And again, you can do this for verification. There's your core, and you do show VLANs. There's VLAN 2, because VLAN 2 is the admin VLAN, thus where the DHCP server and TFTP server exist. Control C. And then we do a show int trunk. And there you see that we actually trunk the ports there. And then it dynamically trunked the ports that they were directly connected to. So trunking is important. Now, the only reason you see port 24 trunked right there, which is that port, right? Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. All right. The only reason that you don't see this port in there, which it is trunked, is because the F00 is turned off. So now what we need to do, because the router is not configured, we need to create the subinterfaces per VLAN. All right, I'm going to create one also for VLAN 2. All right, it's not the native VLAN, so I need to create a VLAN 2. So I'm going to create a subinterface for VLAN 2, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 with the proper encapsulation, which is .1Q. And remember, and again, we haven't gone to the switch part yet, but again, heads up. The encapsulation ID number, when you say encap.1Q, that number that comes next, must match the VLAN ID. So if it's 10, it's 10. If it's 20, it's 20. 30, 30, and so forth. All right? And then we put in the IP addresses for each one. So let's set this up where we can see the IP scheme for it. And we'll take our time with it because we don't want to make silly mistakes. Now, what is it that you need to know? They may ask you what is IP helper address? What is it used for? And really, that would be about it. Okay, that would be about it. You will not be configuring DHCP like we did in the previous lab that we just did, previous lecture. And you're not going to be configuring IP helper, but you may be asked a question on what the IP helper address does. So now you'll see what it does. Right now you saw they're not being assigned address, and we'll take it a step at a time so you can see, even though the ports will up, that we configured inter-VLAN routing. And I'm going to go through it quickly because, again, we're not into the switching yet. When we get to the switching, you'll learn how to do all that. But to show you that they're still not going to get assigned an IP address until you put this IP helper address. Okay? So I'm going to go enable, config T, interface F0/0. I'm going to do a no shut on the physical interface. I'm going to create my first sub interface, which is .2. Is because it's the admin VLAN. I just did .2 just to match that. That's all. Encap. .1Q 2. That's the match. And then the IP address for that is what? It's 10.100.0.254. 10.100.0.254. And then 255, 255, 255. We're using a 27, so that's a 224. Be careful. All right. Now that we did F02, the rest pretty easy. All you gotta do is up arrow. All right. So what we're gonna do now for VLAN 10, and VLAN 10, which is the top one right there. Let me move this up a little bit here, so you can see all of them right there. Let's get the router back in the picture here. So I'm going to do up arrow, up arrow, up arrow, so I get to the sub interface. I'm going to do sub interface 10. Go to the encapsulation, change it to 10. The IP address is the gateway, right? So with our subnetting, 64 is the next network, one less 63. 62 is the gateway. All right, you see how quickly we can do that? So I'm just going to go up IP. There you go. So it's going to be, what did I say? Uh-oh. I made a mistake in the first one. Okay. It's 0. Alas. Did I? Did I? No, I did not. Hold on. Let me check before I continue. You see? Okay, 0, 0. So we're using 0 network. So we're fine. We're fine. Yeah, 0, 0 to 54. Okay. We're good. So we're in the last octet. So it can be 254. So it cannot be 254. It has to be 30 for VLAN 2. So what we're going to do, we're going to erase all this. Control E, go to the end. I'm going to go to subinterface 2. And I'm going to put the change the IP address. Sorry. 10.100.0.30 255.255.255.224. Enter. What I did was, again, for some reason, I see the 0 on the third octet. I don't know why I decided to do that. It's not a 254. It's in the 0 network, but we have a 27. Right? If the next network's 32, 1 less is 31, the gateway is 30, not 254. So be very careful. Be very, very careful. And then we're going to up arrow again to the sub interface, which is already created, really. F0.10. Then we're going to do the end cap, which is 10. Oop, not there. End cap, here it is. End cap 10, right, for VLAN 10. And then the IP address would be 62. And just so you know where I'm getting these numbers from, okay, you see that the network here is 32 for VLAN 10. The next network is 64. 1 less 64 is 63, which is the broadcast. 1 less that is 62, which is 32's network's gateway. All right, last available IP address. That's what I like to use always for the gateways. So that's done with 10. So we go to VLAN 20. So the sub interface 20. .1Q 20. And then what IP address am I going to use? Well, the next network is 96. 1 less is 95, which is the broadcast. 1 less than that is 94. So therefore, it's 94. Done deal. Then we're going to go up there and do 30. Sub interface 30. And then we're going to go ahead and do the .1Q 30. And then the IP address. What is the IP address? Well, we're in the 96 network. One after that is 120. One is 127. So that will be 126. Enter. Okay. We're good. All right. And then we do 40. So sub interface 40. And I'm up arrowing .1Q 40. And then what IP address am I going to use? Well, 40 is the 128. The next one below is 160. 1 less is 159. So 158 would be the IP address last available. All right. And then we go to the 50 subinterface. And then we do .1Q 50. Oops. And then the IP address would be, well, let's see. If we're incrementing by 32, the next one will be 192. 1 less 192 is 191, which is broadcast. 1 less that is 190. I sound like a guy who's, what do you call those guys? Auctioneers? 190, 190, 190, 190. Okay, 190. All right, so I'm going to do a Control Z. And let's bring the router this way. A little bit more. Okay, you guys can see that. Good, good, good. I'm going to do a show IP. Well, let's copy first. Shortcut, WR. Instead of copy on start. I'm going to do a show IP int brief. All right, what I want to do is, one of the things that I'm looking at is obviously that all my interfaces are up, which they are. I'm also looking to make sure that the gateways are correct. So I do have 30, 62, 94, 126, 158, 190. I just verify with what I have right there. You see VLAN 10 is 32. VLAN 2 is 0. So 1 less 32 is 31. 1 less that is 30. That's VLAN 2, and so forth. All right, so we're good to go. We're following the correct order. Now we should have inter-VLAN connectivity. Right? We do show IP route, shows that we're connected directly, right, through our routing table to all these particular interfaces. But when we go over here, we're still not getting an IP address assigned to us from the DHCP server. We're still not going to get assigned because, again, by default, the DHCP server will deny broadcast. So what do? You go inside each one of those sub-interfaces, and you're going to put the IP helper address, all right, which is the IP address of the DHCP server. So the IP address of the DHCP server is 10.100.0.1, okay? So we're going to go to config T. We're going to go to the first sub interface, which is F010 int F0/0.10, and we're going to go IP helper hyphen address 10.100.0.1. That was good, right? Yeah, I believe so. And then hit enter. And then you're going to up arrow, make life easy, 20. Enter, up arrow, IP helper address, same one. You're pointing to the DHCP server. And then you're going to go 30 for the sub interface. And then the same helper address, 40, helper address, and then 50, and then helper address. All right, do WR, Control Z. None of these commands do WR, Control Z. Might not work on your exam, okay? So you have to exit, copy, run, start. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a show start, because I want to see exactly what I have inside each of my sub interfaces. So I didn't put an IP helper address under the admin VLAN because they're statically assigned, and they're within the same VLAN, so they don't need one. But definitely under the other VLANs, the IP helper address needs to be in there, and you can see that it is. So let's take a look now and see if we are receiving an IP address from the DHCP server, a correct IP address for the scope that I'm in. Boom, there it is. 10.100.0.33, I'm in the 32 network. Outstanding. We have that going there. We're going to go now to the 64, should be 65. And I am getting a 65. Let me put that over there. It's a 65 with a 224. All right, with the right gateway assigned. Outstanding. And then we got 96, should be 97. And that's what we got, 97, 224, mask, 126 gateway. And then the 128. You see that? 129, first available, mask, gateway address. And then the last one should be 161. And then the gateway of 190. So IP helper address to the rescue when we're actually using a Microsoft server. Let's say this is mimicking a Microsoft server, and we're going across VLANs, which means we're going across broadcast domains. It could be within the same building. So you could use that IP helper address to allow you to assign all these VLAN, all these IP addresses dynamically per VLAN. So there you go. Previous lesson, very basic DHCP. Now you have an actual DHCP server, but you're using the relay agent of Cisco, which is the IP helper address, to allow you or to help you assign across broadcast domains. I'll see you in the next lecture.